Cast your mind back to the power crisis in 2001, when no one in California could depend on the lights staying on.
They're trying to reduce the number of television sets in use next Sunday because the supply of electricity in California is so vulnerable to any increase in demand.
It is definitely lights out at this intersection in West Hollywood today. A rolling blackout sweeping through California for the second day in a row.
Coming out of that crisis, policymakers faced a fundamental question. How do we prevent blackouts?
In the early 2000s, the regulators were focused on stemming the hemorrhaging, and that was really the focus. So reliability was very much top of mind.
We know now that much of the crisis was caused by severe market manipulation. But at the time, many policymakers, including Governor Gray Davis, said the state needed to stock up on electricity.
The only long-term solution is to build more power plants.
In 2003, San Diego Gas and Electric heeded the governor's call. The utility let out its first request in years for new electrical generation, 300 megawatts, about enough for 300,000 homes. Yet it ended up buying 4 times that much, most of it wrapped up in 2 new gas-fired power plants. Those 2 plants cost more than $1.2 billion, many times more than initial estimates.
They came in for a limited need, and they left with armfuls of power plants, way more than they needed.
In the deal, SDG&E got 2 large power plants, one in Escondido and one in Otay Mesa. The Otay Mesa generating station was far from the grid. It required $200 million in new power lines. Even staff at the California Public Utilities Commission said the plant wasn't needed. The story of how both plants were approved can now be told thanks to witnesses who have come forward, records pieced together by Matt Friedman, and documents obtained by iNewsSource at the Commission's headquarters in San Francisco. They show the powerful chief of the Public Utilities Commission, Michael Peavy, forcefully intervened in the deal and gave SDG&E an ultimatum. Sign a deal for the plant in Otay Mesa, or the Escondido plant will not be approved.
But this one stands out in that we have such a great trail of documentation to demonstrate Mr. Peavy's direct involvement in making a deal happen over the objections of the utility itself, and forcing a series of power commitments that had really questionable value.
SDG&E hired an economist, James Booth, to observe negotiations. He recalls a commission staffer demanding a deal for Otay Mesa on Peavy's behalf.
I was a little shocked. I just didn't see that as the role of the commission to be weighing in on picking a particular project.
Peavy's critics say this deal set the stage for the tainted agreements that have recently engulfed the agency in scandals and sparked criminal investigations by state and federal authorities. Energy experts say ratepayers are still paying for these plants.
Where I think it impacts things more than anything is making a transition to renewable power remarkably expensive when it doesn't have to be. Our rates are among the highest in the country, and people like to say it's because it's California and just all these special different requirements. Not true. It's just that we have a compliant PUC that basically finds a way to approve all of these projects that are unnecessary projects.
Another former commissioner, Jeffrey Brown, also had concerns about Peavy's involvement in negotiations, but in the end, he voted to approve the deal. He says the decision has to be seen in light of the energy crisis.
The situation was getting kind of desperate, and my bias was toward action.
San Diego Gas and Electric declined an interview request. In an email, a spokeswoman for the utility said history has proven that both the Otay Mesa and Palomar energy centers have helped SDG&E meet our customers' energy needs and maintain a reliable electrical system over the past decade. Down at the very bottom of the state of California, up against the hills that overlook Tijuana across the border, the Otay Mesa power plant is now the biggest source of power for the state's second largest city. It's also San Diego County's largest greenhouse gas polluter. It's a power plant, but it's also a symbol of a major build-out of natural gas power plants that some now question, and of decisions made by a regulatory agency now under intense scrutiny. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource reporter Chris Young.